Ambassador Zethkar's 6 eyes dilated with terror as the words echoed through the Galactic Council chambers. The Terran representative had just uttered the phrase that sent chills through every civilized species in the galaxy. Human frontier. The silence that followed was deafening. 300 delegates from across the spiral arm sat frozen, their various forms of breathing apparatus working overtime. Even the usually boisterous Krieg warriors had gone silent, their battle-scarred faces pale beneath their ceremonial armor. "You cannot be serious," Zethkar finally whispered, his translator barely catching the tremor in his voice. "The Outer Rim territories are under our protection. They are civilized space." Captain Sarah Chen, the human ambassador, smiled with the kind of calm confidence that had terrified alien species for the past 2 centuries. She was unremarkable by human standards. Average height, graying hair, laugh lines around her eyes. But to the gathered aliens, she represented something far more dangerous than any weapon of mass destruction. She represented the human frontier. The mineral rights to the Kepler 442 system have been disputed for 30 years, Chen said, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. The Zephyrian Mining Consortium has failed to establish any meaningful presence there. Meanwhile, human colonists have been requesting permission to settle those worlds for a decade. "But the radiation levels," protested High Counselor Vexnam, her crystalline form shimmering with anxiety. "The gravity wells are unstable. The atmospheric composition is toxic to most known life forms. It's a death world." Chen's smile widened. "You say that like it's a bad thing." The collective shudder that ran through the assembly was almost palpable. They all knew the stories. Every spacefaring civilization had their own version of the legend, told in hushed tones around the galactic equivalent of campfires. It had started 300 years ago, when humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel. The galaxy had welcomed them with condescending amusement, another primitive species taking their first tentative steps into the cosmos. The established powers had generously offered humanity a few barren systems in the galactic backwater, worlds deemed too hostile or resource-poor to bother with. The first mistake was assuming humans would be grateful for the scraps. The second mistake was not understanding what hostile meant to a species that had evolved on a planet where the weather could kill you. The animals wanted to eat you, and the very ground beneath your feet could open up and swallow you whole. Within 50 years, those worthless worlds had become thriving human colonies. Planets with crushing gravity became training grounds for human soldiers, who could move like lightning in normal environments. Worlds with toxic atmospheres became testing grounds for human engineering that could make the impossible merely improbable. Desert planets, ice planets, worlds racked by eternal storms, all became homes to humans who seemed to take perverse pleasure in thriving where others would die. But the real terror came when humanity started looking beyond their assigned borders. "We call it the human frontier effect," Chen continued, oblivious to, or perhaps enjoying, the growing horror in the chamber. "It's quite simple, really. You see a world that's too dangerous, too remote, or too difficult to bother with. We see potential." The Vorthan delegate, his tentacles writhing with distress, spoke up. "The last time humans established a frontier, you absorbed 14 systems in 20 years. Systems that had been considered uninhabitable for millennia." "Uninhabitable by your standards," Chen corrected gently. "We prefer to think of them as underdeveloped." Ambassador Zethkar's species, the Kalani, had been among the first to encounter human frontier expansion. They had laughed when humans showed interest in the furnace worlds, planets so close to their stars that the surface temperatures could melt lead. The Kalani had mining rights to those systems but had never bothered to exercise them. The cost of building stations that could survive in such an environment was astronomical. Humans had not built stations. They had built cities. Within a generation, the furnace worlds were producing more rare metals than the rest of the sector combined. Human workers, protected by suits that seemed impossible by galactic standards, walked on surfaces that would vaporize most known materials. They had children there. They called it home. "The Kepler system is under Galactic Preservation Protocol 7, Counselor Vexnam protested desperately. "The quantum storms make navigation impossible. The asteroid fields are dense enough to shred any known hull material. The planets themselves exist in a state of perpetual volcanic activity." Chen consulted her data pad. "Yes, we've reviewed the geological surveys. The terraform potential is actually quite promising. The quantum storms will provide excellent renewable energy once we establish collection arrays, and the volcanic activity indicates rich mineral deposits. My people are very excited about the possibilities. The word excited sent another wave of fear through the assembly. When humans got excited about dangerous places, civilized space had learned to worry. You must understand, Zethkar said, rising from his seat in desperation. The frontier mindset of your species is disruptive to galactic stability. Every time humans push into new territory, you change the fundamental nature of what's possible. You make the impossible routine. You make death worlds into suburbs, added the Krieg representative, his voice rough with what might have been respect or terror. You turn hazards into resources, whispered Counselor Vexnam. You make the galaxy smaller, concluded Zethkar. Chen looked around the chamber, taking in the fear, the awe, and the grudging admiration in equal measure. She understood their concern. Humanity didn't just expand, they transformed. Every world they touched became something new, something that challenged the established order of what was possible. Honored delegates, she said finally, I appreciate your concerns, but I'm afraid the decision has already been made. The first wave of human colonists departed for the Kepler system 3 days ago. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. Translators struggled to keep up, and somewhere in the back a Threlian representative fainted. But Chen simply smiled and gathered her papers. Outside the vast windows of the council station, she could see the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were already pushing into the unknown, turning the impossible into the inevitable. After all, that's what the human frontier had always been about. Not just exploring space, but redefining what it meant to call a place home.